Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the south. A bad end to a good holiday. Angry families who used an airport parking company return to find their cars are missing.
Don't know where my car is. You see photographs in the news of 1,000 cars in a muddy field. If I knew where the field was, I'd go and get it myself.
Overgrown and neglected. The land supposed to be a place to remember those killed in the Shoreham airshow crash.
Women from the south join thousands to protest about their pensions. When are you entitled to yours?
And a rainy regatta, a day of river racing that's steeped in history. Just make sure you've got an umbrella. Good evening. A holidaymaker who used an airport parking company when he went on holiday from Gatwick has returned home to find his car missing.
It comes a day after it was revealed thousands of cars have been found parked unsecurely in muddy fields, with their keys left nearby for anyone to help themselves. Malcolm Shaw has more details.
These were the scenes which first revealed the conditions that air passengers' cars are being kept in by some so-called meet-and-greet parking firms. Vehicles left in muddy fields, ignition keys left on windscreens or in boxes scattered around the site. Today, extraordinary stories have emerged of drivers who've fallen foul of the parking cowboys. Philip Denay from Laverstoke in Hampshire flew into Gatwick at midnight last night. He waited over 3 hours at the North Terminal for his car to be returned, but he was forced to get a taxi home when staff from the meet-and-greet firm he used simply ran off and disappeared.
The frustrating thing for me is I don't know where my car is. You see photographs in the news of 1,000 cars in a muddy field. If I knew where the field was, I'd go and get it myself, but it's a fairly hopeless situation.
5 companies suspected of operating illegally are now being investigated by police, trading standards and council planning officers. Meanwhile, passengers are being advised to use car parks at the airport itself or one of the firms on its approved list. Companies like this, which have secure sites equipped with CCTV and proper hard standing. The managing director has this message for drivers who book the cheapest online deal.
Good luck to them if they hope for the best. Their car could be parked anywhere. And I recommend that they look for the Park Mark Award, which is an award given by the police for security on car parks. And members of the approved operator scheme at Gatwick Airport are all carry the Park Mark Award on all of their car parks.
Kingsley Raphael from Bishop Stortford in Essex returned to Gatwick in the early hours of Sunday morning and found himself among 50 passengers waiting for their cars to be returned. His eventually turned up 5 hours later.
It'd been jet washed on the outside. You could see mud all over it, but it'd been jet washed. But the inside had dried mud on the carpets, on the mats, on the steering wheel, on the seat. They turned the mats over to try and hide it. So just generally in a pretty disgusting state, really.
Tonight, Gatwick told us they have sympathy for passengers who've been affected, but said the airport has no relationship with the parking operators currently being investigated. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Crawley.
To London and travel expert Simon Calder. Simon, this presumably is not new. Parking cars in unsuitable places and cleaning off the mud, hoping that the owners notice nothing.
It is extraordinary, but I'm afraid it comes back to the internet and people thinking, I'm going to get a great deal. I'm going to have a look on the internet, see what I can find. And of course, there's all kinds of, can I say rogues? I think I can, waiting to provide services which are not quite what you thought you were getting. Now, of course, if you want to do that, that's entirely up to you, but be very circumspect. And look, I'll tell you what, I think the clue's in the name approved parking. It's quite easy to find out who's approved and who isn't. If you choose to go for someone who isn't, well, good luck, it's your car.
Is it illegal, though, what they're doing?
Well, it treads a very fine line. Of course, if you are promising all sorts of things which are then not delivered, that would seem to be breaking the Trade Descriptions Act, and I'm sure that trading standards would have something to say about that. However, it's not as if there aren't any alternatives. If you don't like the official parking companies and their prices, well, that's absolutely fine. There are other ways of getting to Gatwick. The ground transportation is actually improving all the time, although, as you've been reporting, Southern Trains isn't necessarily having the best of years.
A quick word before you go, if we may. For those of us off on our holidays next month, we're watching the pound collapse against the euro. What advice have you got?
Well, it is a tough time to be a traveller abroad. Everything is going to cost more than it did this time last week. However, if it makes people more sensible about their holiday money, that's a great thing. So don't just go to your nearest high street outlet, the bank, the travel agent or whatever, and change money without asking what the rate is, shopping around, perhaps negotiating for a better rate, having a look online, maybe even buying online and then picking up your euros or your dollars at the airport. That can save you a good 2, 3, maybe 4%, which will make up somewhat for the plummeting pound.
Good advice as always. Simon Calder, thank you very much.
Other news now, and more than 200 businesses in Southampton city centre have been targeted by thieves in 6 months. Hampshire Police said it's investigating and is committed to protecting businesses from crime within the city. They've dealt with 104 commercial burglaries and 31 attempted burglaries since January. Among them, family-run Metrics Coffee.
Since we opened Metrics just over 2.5 years ago, we've been broken into 8 times now across our 3 sites. I'm heartbroken every time it happens. It's not just Metrics who are being targeted or singled out here. We've been broken into 3 times this year, but across Southampton there have been 200 equivalent commercial break-ins in Southampton city centre.
A temporary memorial to remember the 11 victims of the Shoreham air crash has been left in a disrespectful shamble. That's according to loved ones of the victims.
The site, which overlooks the Ada River, was earmarked by the local council with promises to maintain it. Charlotte Wilkins has more.
Tired, overgrown and neglected. This is the spot where the families of the Shoreham air crash victims are supposed to be able to spend time to remember their loved ones. Giovanna Chirico, supported by her son Luke and friend Ricky, have come here in memory of Mark Trussler.
I was angry, I think, more than upset. You know, they said about replacing the benches, they haven't been done. They said that we could have like a little area to put concrete in so that the kids could put their handprints and their daddy's name and that above it. That hasn't been done. There's no photos on the board of any of the 11.
Daniele Polito was also killed when a vintage aircraft crashed during a display at the Shoreham Air Show in August last year. His former partner Tanya Houston often brings their son Giorgio down to this spot to feel closer to his daddy. But they feel let down.
It's horrible because it just feels like they didn't care at all. You know, if you care about the people that have gone and the families that are grieving, then at least take some pride in the area where the people are supposed to go.
Since our involvement, the council have been down to clear the site. But the families are still waiting to hear about a permanent memorial and so far haven't heard plans about an official remembrance service. A spokesman for West Sussex County Council said they are sorry for any upset caused. They recognised the importance of the site and say they will keep a closer eye on it in future. They also say the families will soon be informed about plans to mark the 1-year anniversary and a permanent place for them to remember their loved ones. Charlotte Wilkins, ITV News.
You're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Thank you for choosing us. And remember, for more on all of our stories, you can head to our website, itv.com/Meridian. Give us a call or get in touch via Facebook or Twitter.
Thousands of women born in the 1950s, many of whom have worked all their lives, protested on the streets of the capital today over the raising of the state pension age.
They say many are being left penniless, losing out on tens of thousands of pounds because changes to the increase at which women are entitled to receive the benefit haven't been properly phased in.
For many years, the state pension age has been 65 for men and 60 for women. But by 2020, it will be 65 for both, and it will rise again to 67 by 2028.
Fairer for all, you might say, but it's the transition that's causing all the problems, as Christine Alsford now explains.
You pay out, we pay in.
They say they feel cheated and betrayed after lifetimes devoted to duty and hard work. Thousands of women in their 60s united in London today, protesting over changes to the state pension age for women.
It's only in recent years that we've been notified that the pension age changed. I feel it's a travesty. It's not fair.
Everybody's in this together. We've all got different stories to tell, how it affects us, and the injustice of it all.
Hundreds from the south travelled to the capital, including recently widowed Rosemary Stewart from Basingstoke in Hampshire. Along with others, she's angry that she did her sums for one retirement, only to now face another.
I'm going to be selling my house. Life is quite a struggle at the moment. I'm on my own now, and it's not what I quite envisaged retirement to be. I've worked since I was 16 years old. I've worked all my life, and I just feel let down.
The age for me to claim my pension went from 60 to 63 to 66, and it's costing me 38,000. That's what I've lost.
In 1995, the decision was taken to slowly raise the retirement age to be the same as for men, from 60 to 65 by the year 2020. But in 2011, changes to the timetable were made, meaning many women will now have to wait until they're older to qualify. For the next 4 years, many will lose out.
In a statement, a spokesman for the Department for Work and Pensions said the equalisation of the state pension age was announced over 20 years ago and rights a long-standing inequality. Women retiring today can still expect to receive a higher state pension over their lifetime than any cohort of women before them.
And I wish you every success in your determination.
The government may not be giving ground at the moment, but these unlikely rebels are from a generation of women who are used to fighting for what they believe in and never giving up. Christine Osford, ITV News.
Well, while they were protesting outside Parliament, inside, MPs from the south were plotting, with both main parties facing leadership contests.
Yes, for the latest, let's go live to our political correspondent, Phil Hornby. Phil.
Yes, Andrew, the latest is this. Tomorrow we will get announcements from about half a dozen people that they're going to stand for the Tory leadership and to be Prime Minister, including Maidenhead's Theresa May, the former Henley MP Boris Johnson, Liam Fox. His campaign will be chaired by the Aldershot MP Sir Gerald Howarth. That's all tomorrow. Today we had the first Prime Minister's questions since the referendum. Westminster was agog with rumours that Labour MPs were planning a protest against Jeremy Corbyn during Prime Minister's questions. David Cameron had heard the rumours too. Are they all going to walk out, he asked. In the end they stayed and greeted their leaders' contributions with silence. Mr Cameron's still clearly shaken by the Brexit vote and no doubt relieved the complicated EU negotiation will be done by his successor. From a leading Leave campaigner, fierce criticism of South East MEP Nigel Farage.
Would he take this opportunity to condemn the ridiculous and revolting behaviour of a certain MEP in the European Parliament yesterday and make clear that he does not represent his country?
It wasn't all about the EU, of course. MPs from our region know what really bothers their constituents.
For weeks and weeks, my constituents have been struggling with the impact of unofficial industrial action on our railways. Not over jobs, not over wages, but over who gets to press a button.
The performance of Southern has been unacceptable and passengers deserve better.
MPs on both sides are clearly preoccupied with their leadership contests. Stephen Crabb, the Work and Pensions Secretary, launched his campaign today. And what about Labour? when Mr Cameron said this to Mr Corbyn.
It might be in my party's interest for him to sit there. It's not in the national interest, and I would say, for heaven's sake, man, go.
He was speaking up for most Labour MPs. Well, that's the message to Mr Corbyn from the Prime Minister and from most of his MPs. Go. He spent all day refusing to go, refusing to budge. He says he's staying, and if necessary, he will fight a leadership contest. It now looks inevitable tonight that there will be a leadership contest. What's interesting is we're getting reports from across the south that thousands of people are joining the Labour Party. Are they joining it to support Mr Corbyn, or are they joining it to vote against him? If Mr Corbyn wins a leadership election, the whole party could split in two.
Phil Hornby, thank you very much indeed. Well, crowds gathered in Brighton last night vowing to stand together and show unity in the wake of the EU vote. Almost 70% of the city's population voted to remain in Europe, and thousands have now signed a petition calling for a second referendum.
I think people are kind of shocked and feeling really divided by the results of the referendum, and I think people maybe have had a couple of days of shouting into the internet and actually want to do something a little bit more practical, or at least a little bit more community based, and I think people want to get together and talk about what sort of society they want to live in.
On Friday, members of the royal family will join politicians and descendants of Great War soldiers to mark 100 years since the Somme, one of the deadliest battles in British history.
Like the rest of the war, it could not have been fought without troops from India, the West Indies and other empire countries.
But following the disaster of the Somme, Britain turned to another group of men from overseas, and the crucial role they played has long been forgotten. Derek Johnson has the story.
High on a hillside, far from home, are men from the First World War's forgotten army. At this military cemetery in the south, the graves of 6 members of the Chinese Labour Corps. After so many soldiers died in the Battle of the Somme 100 years ago, Britain took up an offer from China to bring thousands of its workers to the Western Front.
The idea was that these labourers would release British soldiers to fight on the battlefield. In the main, they were involved in really heavy manual labour. About 2,500 were involved in laying the tracks and maintaining the railways on the Somme, building roads, unloading ships or trains, and of course digging trenches.
Most of the men came from China's eastern provinces, embarking on a savage journey across the Pacific, then through Canada before sailing over another ocean to England. The final stage was by rail again to the south coast, before deployment to France and Belgium.
These were typically very, very poor people. They were originally farmers, a lot of them, who couldn't get very much money from tilling the land, who could get better wages just from working for the British. They come over to France, don't know the language at all, illiterate. Without doubt, they would have felt very alien. It was, of course, a very lonely experience for them.
A plaque next to this commemorative arch is almost the only permanent reminder in this country of the contribution of Chinese labourers. Despite the fact that up to 20,000 of the 140,000 who served Britain and France died doing dirty, dangerous jobs.
After the war, it's kind of a reminder of how close they had come to losing the war, and I guess the establishment found it easier to forget and to ignore that particular episode in the war than to remember it, and that's why they were forgotten.
Our 6 died from disease and are among the very few buried in Britain. Fundraising's underway for a memorial in London.
I think one lesson that we must always learn from any war is how to build up relations between countries and how to really forge stronger links. And this, I think, would be a very suitable time for us to do that.
The personal stories of Yang Chi-chun and the others are lost to us now, but they would have led lives of constant struggle. To the soldiers on the Western Front, the men of the Chinese Labour Corps may have seemed insignificant, but without them, the Great War would not have been won. Derek Johnson, ITV News, Folkestone.
Absolutely, and we'll have more on the commemorations tomorrow.
Sport now, and at Wimbledon, Marcus Willis from Wokingham has been taking on Roger Federer. Willis is ranked 772nd in the world. Federer is ranked number 3. The Berkshire boy lost the first 2 sets but is battling on. Willis nearly gave up the sport a couple of months ago until his new girlfriend persuaded him not to.
It was my brother that said, you know, this guy is a really good player, Jem, you know, what's he doing? So when he said he was thinking of moving to America, I was like, that's it, you're not going, can't do it. Stay.
Didn't have a choice, really.
Really? I like this one.
Did you have doubts? Yeah, there's always doubts. Nothing's guaranteed, is it? But I'm a lot more confident now.
So you should be. Bookmakers have Bournemouth's Eddie Howe as third favourite to become the New England manager. Gareth Southgate remains the bookies' top tip, but former Southampton and Swindon boss Glenn Hoddle has risen up to second most likely, with ex-Saints, Portsmouth and Bournemouth boss Harry Redknapp installed as fourth favourite.
New Reading manager Jaap Stam is busy building his squad for next season. Joey van den Berg has signed from Dutch side Heerenveen on a free transfer. He joins compatriot Denzel Gravenberch, who joined last month.
And from Reading to Henley now, where one of the highlights of the summer sporting calendar got underway today.
The Royal Regatta attracts thousands of people to the Thames to watch rowers race. And despite the rain and the absence of the British team who are busy preparing for the Olympics, the event has an unprecedented 629 entries this year. This from Penny Sylvester.
This is not how it's supposed to be. Cold, wet and windy is not how you want to think about Henley Royal Regatta.
Damp, wet and horrible at the moment.
It's disappointing with the weather, but it's a fantastic atmosphere. No, it's brilliant.
It's incredible. I haven't seen myself, so goodness knows.
We're all being frightfully British here.
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Just a bit shivery, I should have brought a jacket.
I wish the weather was better, but yeah, we're having a lovely time, thank you.
Nothing was going to stop us from enjoying ourselves.
Although the weather hasn't played the game, regatta officials are celebrating a record entry of boats for the prestigious event.
Last year, I'd given the command that gentlemen can take off their jackets because it was so warm. No, gentlemen can put overcoats on today.
This is a major sporting event, but it's also a big hitter on the social calendar. It figures high in the fashion stakes, although today much of the glamour was concealed beneath overcoats and umbrellas.
If it's raining, tears from my eyes. Since you've gone, all I do is cry.
This first day is traditionally for the big boats. The 8 crews are out with the top rowing schools competing for the Henley Regatta silverware.
Crowd-wise, you get many more people here than you do at a World Championships, an international regatta, probably on a par with Olympic Games in certain areas. This is the nearest that rowers will ever get to compete in a stadium, and it's actually a nightmare trying to warm up of the activity, even on a cold, blustery day like today. Is that it is a bit of a struggle out there with all the volume of boats out there, but it is special because there's a noise, there's a buzz. It feels very special.
All the international crews mixing with amateurs, it's great.
We are basically from Germany, and there's nothing like this regatta.
It's an experience that I'm never going to have again, and that it's really cool to be here.
4 more days of top rowing competition ahead. All eyes will be looking to the heavens, hoping the rain clouds will disappear. Penny Sylvester, ITV News, Henley.
Look no more to the heavens, Simon is here.
Yeah, I suspect there will be umbrellas being spotted at Henley over the next few days, sadly, as you'll see in the forecast. But speaking of unusual things in unusual places, not that umbrellas are unusual there, have a look at this picture of some baby blue tits. Nothing unusual. Jenny Tillman in Littlehampton sent them in. You're thinking, well, you see blue tits in nests at this time of year, but look where the nest is, look. In an ashtray, outside the ladies' shower block on the caravan site. She was on holiday at Morton in Dorset. Unbelievable. And you probably will recognise this flower, but Kazia Zielinski sent it in from Sonning Common. And have you ever seen a rose growing from a rose? Like, that's another bud growing out of the main flower. Isn't that odd? And this is another strange flower that Wilhelmine in Horbury found. Doesn't need soil to grow, obviously, just sprouted up out of the gutter in the road. No idea what it is. And finally, here's a very odd daisy. If you look carefully, this one that Jeremy Hopkins found in his garden in Hythe. Well, it's double-headed. Look. He says that it looks like there are two that are fused together, like Siamese twins. Unbelievable. Any other odd stuff? Meridian weather at ITV.com.
Simon, thank you very much indeed. Right then, will we be seeing anything odd or just the rain over the next few days? Here's Simon.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Well, if you've been looking at today's rain and wondering when is summer actually going to arrive, the answer is no time soon. We're still stuck with low pressure, and that means more cloud, more rain, and we get the added bonus of cooler air coming from the north as well. So temperatures are going to be disappointing too. It's like a triple whammy, isn't it? But for tonight, the rain is easing away eastwards. There's a lot of dry weather to look forward to. Perhaps an odd shower here and there, but most of us missing out. And clear spells as well, but temperatures staying well up into double figures. So a decent start tomorrow morning, dry and fine. Some good bright or sunny spells, particularly the further east you are, because from the west again we'll see that cloud start to thicken up, and later on in the day we'll see some outbreaks of showery rain as well. Some of the showers could be on the heavy side, light and patchy too, and some dry weather as well, with temperatures well still a bit below where they should be for this time of year, peaking at around 17-18 degrees. Still a bit of a breeze blowing, particularly along the coast and around the Isle of Wight, but not as windy as it's been today. As for your high tide times, you can see in Bognor 8 o'clock in the morning, 25 to 9 in the evening, and then a decent day on Friday. Still the chance of an odd shower, but some good bright or sunny spells too.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Keeping a close eye on summer. The Pollen Count, sponsored by Ilogy Eye Drops.
Of course, the damp weather is pretty good news if you are a hay fever sufferer. Tomorrow, whilst levels of grass pollen will be high to begin with, they will drop under any rain, and it's the same plan as we head through the next few days as well.
And that's how we look tonight. In just a moment, we've got the ITV Evening News with Mark Austin and Mary Nightingale.
For now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks very much for watching.
I'll see you later with the late news. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.